During the year 1888, in London's East End Whitechapel district, malevolence swells among a decrepit city of poverty and desperate promiscuity. Tens upon thousands of prostitutes wander the streets, offering lust in order to survive. Beyond monetary compensation, these women receive the seed of their clients, which stir within to produce progeny. For the prostitutes, there are no affordable means of preventing conception, and their preferred solution to pregnancy is abortion, despite its roughness and lack of skill. Less than reputable doctors perform the surgery for cheap and resort to treating the abandoned fetuses, children who would otherwise have been born, like mere garbage. Infantile corpses are discarded into a river flowing through the district as the result of a vicious cycle between impoverished women and their conducting of carnal business. Gathered in the river, wraiths, the souls of unborn children, denied their right to be born, gradually lament, cursing the world and holding a grudge against their mothers. Their hatred builds, saturating the river in a vengeful stench of lingering human spirits. From this darkness, a child is born, a single young girl free from corruption. Looking around, the child struggles to understand why she was born and why she was sad and cold. Her only clear desire is simple. She yearns for her mother and wanders the streets in search of maternal love. In other words, she seeks to return to the womb. Among the streets, the child comes across a woman, one of Whitechapel's many prostitutes. Instinctively, she calls out, "Mother," only to be met with terrible abuse. The child, brought forth without morals or common sense, responds to the abuse with overwhelming sadness, causing her to lash out and kill her abuser. Before long, the child is immersed in the warmth of the prostitute's dismembered corpse, which she interprets as a sign of tender affection. Naturally, come morning, the district's residents are alarmed to discover the woman's body. She had been torn through, almost as if dissected. Horrifically, this is merely the first of many killings that leave London's people trembling in fear. The young girl, alone at night, continues to hunt down and cleanly murder more and more prostitutes, finding comfort in the open wounds of her victims. The people, desperate to characterize the serial killer, declare the murderer to be none other than Jack the Ripper. This name, while it assumes a male culprit, actually pleases Jack, as she previously lacked a name to identify herself with. Further rumors spread about Jack, including one assuming she must be a doctor based on the skillful technique of her kills. This immediately brings a smile to her face. To her, doctors are the sort of people she hates most in the world. Villains who continue to slaughter innocent, unloved children like herself. Jack's murders continue, claiming the lives of several prostitutes and attracting attention from a wandering magus. The magus discovers the serial killer is merely a collection of wraiths and promptly deals with her. Jack the Ripper is slain by the magus, disappearing into the darkness as the murders abruptly come to an end. In history, the one known as Jack the Ripper has many identities, stemming from conflicting theories and interpretations about the killer, ranging from theories claiming Jack to be a doctor, painter, noble, and sometimes an ordinary civilian. This child, a collection of wraiths, is but one of these interpretations. One of Jack's most prominent legends insists that she possesses devilish luck, prompting the police themselves to dispose of clues to track her by, including the washing away of symbolic graffiti. The truth, mixed with a lingering fear following her death, as well as various unconfirmed speculations, create a serial killer anti-heroic spirit compatible with corrupt variants of the Holy Grail War. Admittedly, however, such recent legends without the enduring passage of time often result in fragile heroic spirits. In the modern era, roughly 120 years later, the Yugada Millennia mage family prepares to participate in the Great Holy Grail War against representatives of the Mages Association. Both forces pull the best and brightest mages they can afford to fill their ranks. Among Darnik's shoestring allies is a magus by the name of Sagara Hyoma, an unpleasant man born from a downtrodden mage lineage. Before being chosen as a master, Sagara lives with a struggling prostitute named Reika Rikudo. Like many women in this tale, she suffered abuse as a child before adoption and grew up to rely on her body for money and survival. Her dependency on Sagara is a more recent development in her life. In fact, she knows nothing of magecraft and its presence in the world. Of those who participate in the Holy Grail Wars, it is common knowledge that by default, summoning an assassin servant results in the manifestation of one of the 19 incarnations of Hassan-i-Saba. Among the many smaller Grail Wars taking place at the time, this consistency becomes a weakness. Masters will immediately know how to exploit the forms of Hassan, and Sagara wishes to avoid this altogether by breaking the mold and summoning Jack the Ripper instead. Fortunately, this is possible thanks to tampering of the Greater Grail prior to the war. Sagara, for his summoning, comes prepared with the ideal catalyst, the 6 knives Jack supposedly used before being extinguished. He makes an initial attempt at summoning, but is met with failure. He surmises he is incompatible with Jack, and to strengthen their affinity, he must personally use the knives for murder prior to summoning. Conveniently, Sagara already lives with the perfect sacrifice, Reika. He pins her down and carves into her body with the knives, while simultaneously conducting the summoning. Ultimately, it is not Sagara's brutality, but rather Reika's desperate desire to live that completes the summoning of Jack the Ripper. Thus, even though Sagara is the one possessing command seals, the young Jack instead acknowledges Reika as her master. Before Sagara can order her to commit suicide, Jack severs his jaw, along with the hand bearing his command spells. While waiting for Reika to regain consciousness, Jack stitches up her wounds, as well as Sagara's with crude, unrefined technique. When she comes to, Jack explains to her their situation as participants in the Holy Grail War and offers her the chance to inherit Sagara's command spells. Throughout life, Reika has always drifted from one place to another without a goal in mind. This aimlessness prompts her to accept, in part out of boredom. Primarily, however, Reika does not covet the Grail for its powers to make her happy. Rather, Reika finds her own happiness in accepting Jack the Ripper as her daughter. In order to love and protect Jack, Reika resolves herself to commit any atrocious acts necessary. Of course, such acts are inevitable. Reika knows nothing of magecraft and has no inherent means of supplying Jack with mana. For both of them, an efficient solution emerges. Jack will consume the hearts of men. Reika and Jack venture out at night to murder their victims. First, starting with those Reika considers to be bad people, such as a company of loan sharks, as well as other criminals. After a murder spree in Japan, Reika and Jack arrive in Bucharest, Romania, on their way to Trifas, where the Great Grail War is being conducted. There, Reika hears of Romania's epidemic of orphans, abandoned by their parents, under a regime that prevents abortions. The suffering orphans remind Reika of herself, and she settles into Bucharest to continue their murder spree. She intentionally uses herself as bait to attract potential muggers, rapists, and even pursuing mages to isolated areas in the city, where Jack can assassinate them. She then gathers the human hearts to literally serve to Jack on a humble dinner plate. 15 victims later, a Romanian newspaper jokingly publishes the headline, "The Return of Jack the Ripper?" Because some of their victims were skilled mages, both the Red and Black factions suspect the murders to be the work of a servant and fittingly dispatch masters to eliminate them. In battle, Jack wields an assortment of knives, ranging from 4 oddly shaped blades to 2 butcher knives and a scalpel. Her more modern legends limit her strength as a servant, but compensate for her weakness in other ways. Her legend as an unidentified killer manifests into an ability to hide her appearance and parameters from her opponents. What they might observe in combat is quickly forgotten thereafter. In addition, she has 2 noble phantasms, the first being the Mist, darkened misty metropolis, a bounded field that surrounds a large area around her with mist laced with sulfuric acid. It is lethal to ordinary humans and a major threat to masters and servants. This serves as a prerequisite for her second noble phantasm, Maria the Ripper, the Holy Mother of Dismemberment, a deadly technique brought on by her 4 unique knives, and strengthened when her target is female at night in the mist. It is a curse that causes the knives to manifest in the target's body, instantly dismembering them from the inside. Escaping their pursuit, Jack and Reika continue on to Trefus, and spend the majority of the Great Grail War acting on their own desires, continuing to amass human hearts for Jack while staying clear from the fighting. For the two of them, these are days of joy. Reika gently cares for the innocent-minded Jack in an intimate mother-daughter bond. Despite this, the two feel these days coming to an end. When the Red faction succeeds in extracting the Greater Grail from the Yggdrasilania castle, the remaining masters resolve to hunt down Jack the Ripper before focusing on the Hanging Gardens. While they search for her, Jack attempts to murder the Yggdrasilania head, Fiore, in their absence, but is ultimately repelled. Thus, Sieg and Jeanne d'Arc decide to wander the streets as bait to draw Jack out. Under pressure, and having difficulty procuring fresh mage hearts, Jack falls for their trap and unleashes the mist upon them. Jack uses the fainted bodies of children to distract Jeanne during their fight, and seizes her chance to unleash Maria the Ripper. However, Jeanne's purity serves to repel the cursed noble phantasm. Taken aback, Jack falls victim to Jeanne's advance and is almost eliminated via baptism rite before Reika rescues her with a command spell. The two attempt an escape, but are thwarted by the arrival of Atalante, who promptly fires an arrow at them. Reika, in her final moment alive, blocks the arrow as a human shield before enhancing Jack with her remaining command spell and dying in the street. Jack weeps for her fallen mother, only to be pierced through by another of Atalante's deadly arrows. What would normally kill an average servant instead causes Jack to burst open, spilling out her collective wraiths in the form of a dense miasma. There, both Jeanne and Atalante are forced to confront the many suffering souls of children that formed Jack long ago. The children beg for salvation, cursing Atalante and invoking her will to protect all the world's children. They unsheath themselves before Jeanne, only to be met with disappointment. "I cannot do that. I can save children who've lost their way, and I can purify souls that have lingering regrets by praying. However, Jack the Ripper alone cannot be saved by me." The children are paralyzed in the face of this brutal declaration. You have all already been included as part of his legend. The murderer known as Jack the Ripper is already both anybody and nobody. Do you all truly understand that the people you killed were victims of Jack the Ripper? You know neither their names nor their faces. You only sought your mother's face and killed them in the process, right? The individual children cannot be separated from the rich mixture of myths and legends that make up the entity known as Jack the Ripper. That's right. You have all been made part of Jack the Ripper. You might have been forced to become part of him, but that's why, even if I can kill you, I can't save you. Instead, Jeanne is able to exorcise the children, releasing their souls from being bound to the world, such that they can never be summoned again. Despite Atalante's protest, the children accept Jeanne's words and allow themselves to dissipate. Finally, after over a century, the trapped souls of aborted children are set free. As they find peace, Jack's collective soul expresses its pity for Jeanne, who is left to bear the tragedy of their existence. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then go check out some of my other lore videos. It's my goal to make one of these for virtually every servant in the Nasuverse, and I would appreciate your support through that journey. The best way would be to become a patron of the channel. We offer different reward tiers, ranging from early access to the chance to suggest your very own video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the holy waifu wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.